way, you've got a real opportunity to hear an amazing 10-hour presentation. It doesn't even mean you have to agree with it all, but it'll certainly get you thinking. Normally, all his shows sell out. In fact, the one in last year in New York totally did. A huge group of people. I think there's a few tickets left for that at DavidIcke.com, but the Cleveland one, he was telling me, hadn't been promoted a ton, so it's actually got quite a few tickets left. Go to DavidIcke.com if you want to hear him speak tomorrow. If you live in that area, anywhere around Cleveland, be able to hear David Icke speak. David, continuing, you got cut off by the break. Do you remember what you were bringing up?
Yeah, I was talking about these personality types that they have systematically targeted for the uniform and dark sleep professions. Narcissist, a psychological condition characterized by self-preoccupation, lack of empathy, and unconscious deficits in self-esteem. And it's the unconscious deficits in self-esteem that cause these people to act absolutely over the top. When you challenge them, it's like, how dare you challenge me? You know, people getting tasered for just asking for the law that they're being arrested under. And the other one is the psychopath, which is very close. A person with an antisocial personality disorder manifested in aggressive, perverted, criminal, or immoral behavior without empathy, here we go again, or remorse. And of course, all over America and increasingly around the world, you're seeing exactly that type of personality in the uniformed professions, policing, protests and peaceful protests and what have you, and with their brutality. And it's been systematically done. See, they don't, when you want to control the population, you don't want to employ people to enforce your will who have a conscience. That's your worst nightmare. You want people who get it. You've described it, mate. Who get a kick from enforcing these things upon other people. That's why they're targeting these personalities. And there's business transformation of the personality in the police around the world, from the old school. And any of those that remain, their daily life must be a nightmare when they live among this stuff now, to this psychopathic, narcissistic, brutal control freak that we see increasingly in uniform.
Well, I tell you, I should do a news report on this, because over the years I've seen the articles, I've read it. Every time I mention it, people don't believe me. But you can find mainstream news. We're going back about 20 years under federal grants. They will not hire officers with over 100 IQ. That's where it starts. Then they have these specialized psychological tests that are between 500 and 1,200 questions. And they can actually, and they say, oh, we're identifying if you're a liar or whatever. No, they are identifying. Before, they wanted tough guys that would follow orders and wanted to protect people. In the old days, it was, you weren't in too many fistfights in high school or whatever. Your family doesn't, you don't come from tough guys, we don't want you. But now it's, they literally want people that relish dominating. And that's why I've been in New York and places and seen women walk over and go, officer, what do you know where this is? Do I look like a phone book? I ought to arrest you right now. I mean, it is just outrageous. They want you to know you are trash. We are God. Yeah,
like the guy walking down from his shift at Los Angeles airport was banging his chest like Godzilla, shouting, I have the power. This is the mentality that we're dealing with, and it's been systematically done, and therefore the relationship, the dynamic between law enforcement and police and government and police has now dramatically changed, and they want to push us down this road even to more extreme levels, because they want their New World Order enforced by thuggery, and we're seeing it now, and it's not in the future, it's sometime never over the rainbow, we're living it.
Well, Hitler, with his brown shirts, hired all the criminals, as Stalin unleashed them all out of the prisons and made them commanders.
It's exactly the same principle. What you see is a blueprint. I see blueprints everywhere. And, of course, if you get something that works, well, why change it? So, therefore, it becomes a blueprint. Therefore, you can see it through the generations and in different historical situations. It's absolutely the same. It's absolutely the same as what happened in Nazi Germany and Stalinist Russia and the Soviet Union that followed. That's exactly the blueprint. The Chinese blueprint. It happens there in a very
incredible
way, obviously.
If I was a film director and I was doing central casting for a dystopic nightmare future for a checkpoint, I'll finish the story when we come back. David Icke will get into Iran straight ahead. All right, we're doing a few more minutes with David Icke, author, researcher, former head of the UK Green Party. We got into some pretty wild issues, but the globalists are doing crazy things, so who knows? But we were talking about how, on record now, they psychologically profile police to be narcissistic people that want to dominate. And then they also then profile for psychopaths to put them, what they call them, high-functioning psychopaths, in the command positions. Now, they haven't completed this conversion yet, but they're starting to get close. And Hitler, of course, hired a bunch of thugs, the brown shirts. We talked about what happened with Stalin opening up the prisons and putting aggravated felons and rapists and murderers in command positions. This is what tyrants do, and you were mentioning that it's a blueprint. And it is. They hired the former head of the Stasi, Marcus Wolf, to set up Homeland Security. That's on record. You can't make this stuff up. But if I was doing central casting, David, for a dystopic future America under a police state, I would in casting, I would hire thuggish-looking, crazy-eyed-looking, mean people who would have, slit, their eyebrows down, looking through slits, hatefully, when families drive up to a checkpoint. It's not enough to have them in black uniforms strutting around like third world countries. They've got to be looking at you with hate. And, man, you pull up to these warrantless checkpoints now. I've actually pulled up to them, but they've got them all over the country. And they'll tell you, get out of that car, get over there. I mean, and you watch them. And I've been in New York and seen the Hercules teams, guys in black uniforms with their guns. They just get off and everybody looking at them. They'll sit there for 10 hours just getting off and everyone's scared of me. I'm powerful. It looks clownish to those of us that are real men and realize just what a pile of weak cowardice they are. You can see the weakness right there in front of you. A real man wants to defend humanity and is strong. They don't want to stand around and bug their eyes out and cops ordering people around. And I've been in New York a few months ago, and there was a parade out there when I went for a walk, and they were just barking at people and looking at everyone. I mean, if I made a dystopic movie, David, it could not, if the police acted this thuggish and hateful towards the public, and it's not like this in all cities, you wouldn't believe the movie because it would be too over the top. Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have reached the level of almost it being farcical. It's a B movie we're living through, and these people are emotional cripples. People who are deeply, deeply insecure have to externalize their sense of success. People who have security or are secure within themselves, they're happy just to live their lives. They don't need people constantly confirming how powerful they are or how important they are or successful they are. And so the insecure people, they're the ones that drive down the street at 5 miles an hour in the Bentley, so everyone can see them and all that stuff, because they need externalized confirmation that they're okay people. This is why people want more and more money. Oh, we've got a bigger house, and they're externalizing their insecurity, and you get the same process with these emotional cripples in uniform. They're externalizing their sense of self, because by frightening people and intimidating people and watching the people being intimidated, they get their sense of power, their sense of how big they are, because they're just pathetic. I mean, they are little boys in short trousers. That's what I see. The playground bully. I had a childhood experience with a playground bully, which actually taught me a lot about the rest of my life, actually. I remember it. And what happened, short story or long story short, is the playground bully turned out to be a coward, and that's what these people are behind all this stuff. And when you challenge them in the most pleasant way, the taser comes out, or this comes out, the aggression comes, because they cannot stand their apparently massive, but actually very, very fragile ego being challenged. And this is the mentality. And because I travel so much, it's everywhere. They did the same to protesters in Melbourne and Sydney while I was in Australia in very recent days. The same mentality is being employed all over the world because it's a global blueprint.
It is. I mean, that's the proof. Now they admit there's global standardization, and global in Australia to the UK to Canada, the US, they take blood for now 40 years, secretly, standardization of the electronics. This is global blueprint.
Yeah, and it's very simple, the way they've done it. I explain this in my talks and my books. What they've created, Alex, is the global version of a transnational corporation. the headquarters at operational level is in Europe, in places like Belgium, City of London, Rome, Germany, France, and to an extent America, but not as much as you think. You know, what they've done with America is they've set America up as the fall guy. So America fires the bullets, but they're overwhelmingly loaded in Europe.
Yeah, we've always been the big enemy because we went against them for a short period. We're set up to take all the blame, pay for everything, and then be destroyed.
Exactly that. That's exactly the story. If you look at McDonald's, they have a headquarters in Europe, and then they have subsidiaries all around the world. And the subsidiary has to impose the corporate global blueprint of the headquarters.
The corporate vision, the corporate message, the corporate handbook.
Yeah. So you go into McDonald's in Moscow or Johannesburg or Sydney or London, and you go into the same McDonald's. Now, what these people, this cabal has set up is exactly the same, but it's secret societies and bloodline families. So you've got the headquarters in Europe, what I call the spider, and it dictates the global agenda and the timeline for its unfolding. Then, in each country, you've got a network of bloodline families under different names and the secret society network which manipulates them and their agents and gophers into power. And their job is to impose in their sphere of influence, their country, the centrally dictated blueprint agenda. And therefore, the same things are coming in, like smart meters and all this stuff, all over the world at the same time. And then there's another level in which the subsidiary network in the country has subsidiary networks within the country that control the cities and the towns and the regions. And so it's this kind of holographic blueprint where every part of the network is a smaller version of the whole, that they can orchestrate this global agenda through. And it's been in place now for a long time. And this is where it's working. And this is why you'll find the same narcissistic, psychopathic personality being employed in law enforcement all over the world, because it's centrally dictated through this network.
Well, they're administering the same psychological test, and all of that's compartmentalized. They say the test score means one thing, but decoded, if you look at the test, I've seen articles, it's really, okay, we've got a sociopath, we got a psychopath, we've got, well, is he a high-functioning psychopath? Put him in a low level, watch him, see if we can move him up.
Right.
Because they don't want an out-of-control one. And then they mainly just want dumb kind of, we're the good guys, do what I say or I taser you. Did you see, boss? Did you see? That's kind of like the general group they want on the bottom. And heaven help these people. It's incredible. Now, we're going to let you go and go to here in just a moment and go to Bob Chapman of the International Forecaster. And I appreciate all your time, David. You're going to be speaking in New York coming up later. People can find out in just a few days at davidicke.com. But in closing, we keep mentioning Iran. We've only got a few minutes before the break. What's happening geopolitically there? The talk of the euro collapsing, France plots Eurozone breakup group. But the breakup group is just the central IMF World Bank sucking everybody dry. You've got the floor, David Icke. Break down what's happening globally, geopolitically.
Well, in terms of Iran, we talked a little while ago, and you put the wish list map up there, and right in the middle of the wish list of countries they wish to take over in that part of the world is Iran. And so you need an excuse, and they've been trying to find an excuse for a long time, and they've not been able to. And what we're seeing now is like, with Iraq, it was like, okay, we'll have to explain how they got weapons of mass destruction and go into a bit of detail and all this stuff. But now they've reached the point, well, look, here's an excuse. I don't care if you don't accept it. This is the excuse. Okay, boys, in you go. And so we now have this ludicrous things like Saudi Arabian ambassadors being, having their attempts on their lives, absolute bloody nonsense and all that stuff. And I think it was very significant that this Zionist, Elena Ross-Lehtinen, the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, pushed through this, HR 1905, which basically makes it illegal to have American diplomacy with Iran. And because they don't want diplomacy, they don't want an end to it diplomatically. There's an agenda to attack Iran and take over Iran. And it's coming out of Israel, which is controlled by the House of Rothschild. It's their fiefdom. It's nothing to do with the homeland for Jewish people. That's just a front that the Rothschilds put up to hide what they're doing. And they control America. And so together they work as one unit. America is not the superpower that it seems to be. It is the super poodle of Israel, because that's the fiefdom of the Rothschilds, who also control America. And Iran's on their wish list, so therefore they're going to find a way of going in. If they can't find an excuse that works, they'll find one that doesn't.